Thank you very much, both of you. John, can I just ask you, first of all, we all know what Mars is, what Navi is?
So Navi is, thank you Matt, Navi is a pharmacy services management company, and we provide purchasing, finance, marketing services to about 500 pharmacies throughout Ireland. So that's our main business. It's a buying group called Axiom. Then we also have two franchises. One is Carroll Pharmacy and the other one is Stable. And we have an IT company called TouchPlus. So when we started in 2009, the first concept for the business was really about finding IT solutions for problems that were, I was a pharmacist, I was dispensing, and my problem at the time was I couldn't actually source, it hasn't actually changed. It's got a lot worse, but it was still a problem at the time, source the cheapest product for the pharmacy and actually see who had stock at the time. So we came up with a relatively simple platform, which we called Axiom, which identified for the pharmacist and directed them to buy their stock from the vendor who had it in stock and at the cheapest price, and that has grown since then. We've developed a number of other platforms, but that simple concept is still the core of our business, and we'll discuss more about that.
Well, has the adaptation of the technology been as fast as you might have hoped for?
I think in certain areas it has. So, when we started, we were the first ones to bring an electronic ordering platform into community pharmacy. Now, I would say the vast majority of pharmacists use electronic platforms. They might use ours. There's a number of other products in the market, and they'll use these systems to do all their ordering. Now, some anecdotal evidence was if you had to replicate what you can do now with a click of a button, that would take either a day or a day and a half of person hours to actually, or person days to actually complete that work. So that's freed up a lot of time. It's made pharmacies a lot more efficient. It's also had a financial benefit because different groups have used these electronic systems to pool their buying and then negotiate extra discounts with Paul or Dermot or all the various different manufacturers as well. And that's added a financial benefit to pharmacy. So where pharmacists were completely in control of their decision, there has been very good adaptation. Another good example would be in terms of their claim management. When you remember this, when a couple of years ago, if you wanted to check your claim from the HSE, you got either a green or a blue book, and you had to go down through it. And it's a job usually for the pre-reg. It's one of these painful jobs that you have to do. You go down through it with a ruler, and you tick every single item. You check the price, make sure you got paid, and if there was anything then they were missing, you'd start ringing the PCRS and see if you could get payment for it. Now that can all be done with literally a click of a button. So the majority of pharmacies, again, and in fairness, the accountants would advocate always for this as well, to actually make sure they're maximising, and not maximising the revenue in one sense, but also getting paid what they're due for the service that they provide. So that's actually, there's a huge adaptation of those technologies.
Oonagh, how do you apply these technologies when it comes to pharmacy management systems?
Yeah, so I think anywhere where you can employ technology to take the burden away from our biggest asset, our people, is a good thing to do. So whether it be through purchasing, procurement, whether it be checking claims to make sure that all the work that we do, that we're getting paid for that, is a good thing. So, I mean, if there's something, we have a rule in our business that if something is being done repetitively in our business and there's a digital way to do that, then we will embrace that digital technology, whether it be from procurement to back of house, I suppose, to front of house as well.
But is that something that pharmacists want to do? Is that what they've trained to do, that they spend a lot of time with their computer ordering and tracking prescriptions?
I don't think that's what we sign up to do when we go to college. It certainly wasn't what I signed up to do. And I think that is where there is a disjoint in community pharmacy at the moment, and we've heard a lot about that this morning. You know, pharmacists, and we have a lot of undergrads that come in and spend time with us, they want to be patient facing, they want to use their skills, and that's what they sign up to do. And if you speak to any student of pharmacy, that's what they want to be. They don't want to be sitting, checking to see, are they getting paid for something? What's the price of something? Phoning up the wholesaler saying, that's out of stock, how much will you give us? Whatever. That's a waste of our skills. So what we're trying to do really in community pharmacy is embrace technology and use technology as an enabler to actually take all that burden away from ourselves so that we can actually get more
But
patient
does
facing.
it become its own burden? Is it simple enough to use that it can be done speedily, effectively, efficiently, rather than becoming a massive chore in itself?
Well, I think once you have software technologies in place, such as what John has spoken about in his business, and like for us, we use a technology called real world analytics as a business intelligence tool. We could not operate our business without that now.
Well, what does it do for you?
So it basically extracts all of the data from our dispensary systems and from our retail business and now from our online business and presents that back in a format where we can read the insights of that so that we can manage our business day to day. And we work closely with the team there to actually ask them, well, is this report that we want or that report that we want? Things that are taking up time, valuable time, that we want to know the answer for, because we want to be able to actually use our best people to actually make changes in our business really, really quickly to actually move things forward. And so using something like a business intelligence tool to do that means that we're not going on Excel spreadsheets and looking up things and cost prices of things or whatever. So we can use that from a procurement point of view. We can use it from double checking to make sure that we're getting paid for certain things. But we've moved that on further now to actually use it much more to do with the patient and the patient experience, because all of that data will tell us, for example, what patients are compliant, which patients are adhering to their medicines, why are patients not adhering to their medicines. So we can actually mine that data to find out, well, Matt, you come into me for, I don't know, cholesterol tablets or whatever. Well, why are you not collecting that on a regular basis? So we can have those conversations with patients and find out what is the reasons that they're not doing
that. And what
that.
can you do then? Could you set up a system where you alert people
Absolutely.
as to your prescription is about to run out, you need to come in and get a new one?
Exactly. So it may be that patients forget. It may be that actually they're telling their GP colleagues, actually they are taking the medicines, but they're so scared to actually say, I'm not taking the medicines at all. They're going through this whole agenda of going to see their GP, getting something prescribed, and then coming into us and saying, don't give me that. Why do patients do that? It's really trying to understand the behaviours behind that. And usually whenever we have those conversations with patients, it's down to education really. They think that maybe those medicines are causing certain side effects, or their next door neighbour told them actually you're going to become addicted to that, or it's going to cause you to gain weight gain. Then you can address actually what's going on for the patient, so you can find reasons that it's back to education really. So we're using that information, I guess, in the back end now to come up with services so the patients can actually adhere to their medicine. So again, nobody talked about compliance here today. Compliance is a massive, massive issue. And we see this at the back end when patients unfortunately pass away and they come in with medicines, their family members come in with bucket loads of tablets. And we think that they're taking those medicines.
That's not your responsibility, it's their responsibility.
But we do have a responsibility to patients. We do. If our whole purpose is to look after
surely
patients.
your responsibility is to give them the medications. It's their responsibility.
And to
take
counsel them.
Okay.
And to counsel them as well, and to find out, what issues they're having with their medicines, so that they have better adherence and they have better patient outcomes as the result of that. So what we're trying to do is make a difference to patients, and not only to them, but actually to their loved ones as well, to their family members.
And John, I suppose that and what we were talking about in the last session goes towards this whole development of a digital health record system, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really the rollout and development of digital health record there'll be an inflection point in terms of IT, with either not just in pharmacy but in the wider health service, and it's unbelievably badly needed, unfortunately, as Dara and the team referenced earlier on. The timeline that is at least 5 years plus at the moment from our point of view. So
why is it 5 years?
Why is it 5 years?
Is that a question of taking the technology to be developed? And we also see, for example, don't we, that this is a major for tech firms. The Apples and the Googles and Fitbits and the rest of it are all trying to develop health products at this stage. So why isn't the health industry itself getting its act together?
I don't think, to be fair, it's so much the health industry, because there are digital health records. They're rolled out in other European countries. There are digital health records that are available in Ireland. It's actually just a matter of actioning it, and I suppose to be fair, that's going to be above my pay grade, so it is in terms of getting that one done. But there's, I suppose we're very lucky in Navi that we've had a lot of dealings with Professor Martin Curley, and he's in charge of the digital innovation, the HSE. So Martin's putting a huge amount of work into driving the adoption of digital health records, and he's worked with Google, he's worked with Amazon, really pushing that really hard. And like, there's an awful lot of very, very good work happening there, and hopefully Martin, through his energy, will be able to push it through faster. But if you want to bring it back to just even around compliance, Oonagh is so right in what she says. Like, the health service is all about has to be all about the patient. It has to be all about patient outcomes. So any failure, any drop ball throughout the chain, either from the consultant down to the hospital doctor, down to the GP, down to the pharmacy, if it's not landing with the patient, well then all the rest of the work, all the rest of the investment was for naught. And really, pharmacy is, and we've seen this as well through our engagement with Martin, is that there's a lot of medtech companies bringing some really innovative products in terms of patient monitoring, in terms of really easy reporting systems. Google now have their Fitbit is CE marked to check for atrial fibrillation. So simple things like that, rolling out a simple atrial fibrillation program through pharmacy. I think it's approximately 3% of the population of atrial fibrillation, which is the single biggest cause of stroke. Like, if you look at the impact of that will have in terms, just look at the cost impact alone for the health service of somebody having a stroke, not in mind the actual personal impact, the impact on their family, the financial impact on their family. Having a very simple screening program like that, which can be rolled out through pharmacy, would be hugely beneficial.
It strikes me that there's an awful lot of information systems being developed in parallel, but they're not linking with each other.
Absolutely. That's the main biggest issue in IT and pharmacy at the moment, and it's actually kind of throughout the health service really. Like Darragh referenced as well, pharmacists in hospitals ringing up the local pharmacy. My wife works in Tala Hospital, she does that every day. So she rings up the local pharmacy. You probably get calls out in time and hour. Like ringing up the pharmacy, what's Matt on? What are his tablets? You know, he said it's in an orange box. Is it this one? Is it that one? And that's the only source of data they have then to actually communicate to the doctor and actually to do a medication usage review and actually to change their medication.
So should everybody have an app with their personal medical history on it that could be accessed in a case of emergency by a pharmacist, a doctor or a hospital? I
think the systems all have to be integrated. That's the golden egg that we're all chasing, because not only from an efficiency point of view, like we spend an inordinate amount of time every day on the phone to GPs, asking them to change medication, to the wholesalers, to everybody. So it's a huge burden, administrative burden, and not only that, from a patient safety point of view. You know, you could be on the phone telling somebody in telehospital what a patient is on, and what happens if you get something like that wrong? Do you know what I mean? So from a patient safety point of view and from an efficiency point of view, our best people, and I'm talking about doctors, nurses, pharmacists, are spending an inordinate amount of time doing jobs that can be absolutely done by technology, by integrated technology. So there's us in pharmacy, community pharmacy, making great headroads with various different technologies and software pieces, but we need to be integrated into the hospital, secondary care, and with our GP colleagues as well.
I'm just going to throw it out to the audience. Does anyone want to ask a question or add a comment at this stage before I move on? Yes, lady, we'll just get the microphone to you, please. Thank you.
Hi, Adele Curran, Real World Analytics. I just want to say that we work in Ireland, but we also work across the border in Northern Ireland and in the UK, and we see a movement in all the different areas towards more digital and more technologies being involved in pharmacy. Like 4 years ago, when we got into the UK space, the e-prescribing was embedded in England, but it was about 40, 47, 50%. But when COVID came in, that went from 50 to 90%. So, 96% of prescriptions come via e-prescribing in the UK. That has freed up the pharmacies to do more services. They have a really good service in the UK called NMS, which is a new medicine service, which is where the pharmacy supports a patient on a new medicine over a staggered period. So it's like, you start off, you have your consultation, 2 weeks later you have another consultation, and then a month later you have a consultation that allows the pharmacist to find out whether or not you're taking those medicines, and whether or not you need to go back and talk to your GP or you're not happy. I think that is a real progress phase for Irish pharmacy. I really think, and it's supported by the NHS in the UK. I think the Irish IPU and the PCRS need to support Irish pharmacy in doing those type of services.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we've done, we heard about this service in our business, and actually we just took that paper format and did that as a trial with one particular pharmacy, one disease condition, new medicines in that condition, and literally we got our pharmacists to phone after a week, after 4 weeks, and just measured what was the compliance and the adherence rate versus the patients that we didn't do that to. And it is huge. It is absolutely huge. We are working on a pilot program at the moment with Health Beacon. I'm sure everybody in the room knows Health Beacon. They've come up with a piece of technology that can measure adherence of injectables. And injectables in the market, are expensive medications. They cost the state an absolute fortune. And we have tracked our patients on particular medicines, injectable medicines. What is the compliance like versus using their technology? It is a significant jump, 20% jump, right? So back to the point, we're all, have parents or family in this room, right? You asked the question, is that our responsibility? Yes, it's our responsibility as community pharmacists to actually care about whether our patients take the medicine. But actually, we have a human, societal, everybody in this room wants to know at some stage their loved ones, if they go on a medication that actually is life-saving to them, that manages their chronic illness, that they actually are taking that medicine correctly. So we need to embrace these new technologies, and that will include investment in the technology, integration in technology systems, and collaboration, as Kiva said earlier, with people who are like-minded, because it's my firm belief that the problem we have here in Ireland is we don't have long-term strategic thinking. It's all short-term. Solve the problem with the trolleys and the beds or whatever it is, and it's all too short-term. We're a small state. We've only got 5 million people. We can do this. We were able to do the smoking ban and the plastic bags and everything else. It's about getting like-minded people into the room with a long-term strategic vision. We shouldn't be talking about adherence. We should be talking about prevention. We should be absolutely saying, well, why are people actually in our hospitals? And there was the last study of the Matter Private, there was 82% of patients who were in beds were in there because they didn't take their medicines properly. That is massive. So we can solve that problem. Community pharmacists can solve that problem if we're given the resources to do that. So it's actually about prevention. It's about managing chronic illnesses for people who have chronic illnesses. We are the experts in medicines and that. We are trusted, as Dara said, 97% trust rate. Patients come to see us. We're accessible. We're in every community. I think 85% of the population is within a 5-kilometre distance. We're trusted. We're the people that can solve this problem. And then there's this whole other cohort. If you don't have a chronic illness, how can we prevent you from getting one? It's screening services. We have consultation rooms in every single pharmacy. Sharon has more than what I have, but anyway, definitely we have invested in this. So it's actually about getting people to come in who are worried about having a chronic illness. Maybe their mum and dad have a heart condition or high cholesterol. Let's get them early. Let's get the screening done so that they don't end up on that path.
John, listening to this, it strikes me that there's enormous potential particularly for the use of artificial intelligence and data collection. However, you have to have the human input in dealing with patients, or else that data will go to waste. Or is that a correct interpretation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you have to have the human input in doing patients at all stages. And in the UK, artificial intelligence is now starting to be used in the dispensary process. I suppose before you get into the AI, I would say that the IT that we have in pharmacy at the moment is actually really, really good. The IT vendors are good at what they do. It's a good product. the limitation of putting AI on top of that is we actually don't have enough IT. So as Oonagh referenced, the compliance programs, the service programs, doing them manually is not an efficient use of time. They have to be done in an electronic, whether it's an electronic booking system, whether it's electronic, automated text messaging. That all has to be pulled together. And then if we can bring in the additional sources of IT into the pharmacy and then layer AI on top of that, that will make it very, very powerful. Some data from the UK, just a simple use of AI is just in validating all the prescriptions that are being dispensed. And some data from the UK says that 70% of prescriptions, there's no real issue with them in terms of they don't need pharmacist intervention. Now the pharmacist has to check them, the pharmacist has to sign them off legally and from a safety point of view, but they don't need a lot of intervention. 30% of them need a focused intervention from the pharmacist. And the use of AI in that scenario is really just to highlight for the pharmacist what needs their exact attention, and really so you get a much better return of the pharmacist's time in terms of zeroing in on where the problems are in terms of your prescription. So, but AI would really, really come into its own if there was a digital health record, because then not alone would you have the dispensing data, and it's back to the whole siloization of data. So pharmacy has a huge amount of data, it's in a silo. Like, good luck ringing a pharmacy at 11 o'clock at night if you have a person sitting in A&E and Tallaght. You just won't get them because they work retail hours. But the GP has data, the consultant has data, that has to all come together. And if you can bring that together in a digital health record and then layer your AI on top of it, you're in a whole different plane in terms of the value that you can add.
I want to ask you, about e-commerce and the e-commerce platform you have in Mars. How significant a part of that business is it now, given that we would perceive you as a bricks and mortar retail business?
Yeah, it's a significant part of our business now. We set it up in 2014 on the back of customer feedback. We're always surveying our customers and asking them what else can we do. And at that time in 2014, we had a number of pharmacies in, I suppose, city centre locations where we had busy professionals. So under the Google building and Bagot Street, a lot of busy people around who were popping in at lunchtime to collect their bits or whatever. They were getting their sandwich. They were time poor, I guess. And on the back of that, they were asking for a click and collect. So let me know that you have whatever it is that I'm looking for, and they'll be ready so I don't have to queue. So that's why we set it up on the back of that. But very quickly, we seen a lot of customers then engaging with us and asking us to send out whatever it was that they were purchasing outside of our own demographic area. So I would say within 6 months, we went fully transactional. We've made so many mistakes in this. It's a completely different business to a bricks and mortar business. Yes, you're still serving the same customer, but the customer journey is very different. There's lots of different behaviours that go on online than there would be in bricks and mortar. But what we're really trying to do now is to, and somebody mentioned the term, and I hate the term as well, is to make that an omni-channel experience, so that it doesn't matter, where the customer interacts with you, whether they come into store first, so because a lot of customers would research offline, but purchase online.
But for what sort of products? Is this for what I might say lifestyle, health, beauty products, that type of thing, rather than medicines?
Yeah.
Are medicines still a thing that you
can't
come in
yes.
rather than actually?
Yeah.
But is there an opportunity available for the dispatch of medicines as part of the business?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
we did that particularly throughout COVID. We were able to integrate that dispatch of our prescription medicines through our e-commerce platforms, through the logistics setup that we had, because many patients were cocooning, many patients needed to get access, couldn't get out or whatever. So we were able to do that, but predominantly people will come and collect their prescription. Most people will come and collect their prescription unless they're very busy. But e-commerce, our e-commerce business is mainly skincare, beauty and wellness products, supplements, vitamins and so on and so forth. And very often, patients or customers or whatever you want to call them, sometimes they prefer to come into the store and talk to our teams and talk in detail, especially if it's something new that they have. Other times, it's really, it's much more convenient for them to shop online. So we're always just trying to understand how can we positively make an impact on that customer at the most appropriate time. So we're always trying to, like, it'll always be an omni-channel experience for us, because we do want them to come into store. We do know that we can add better value to them whenever we see them in person. But for times where they can't come into us, then at least we have the online option. And obviously we're 9 pharmacies in Dublin, but some of our most loyal customers are from the height of Donegal or Kerry or Cork now. So now, even though we're predominantly bricks and mortar in Dublin, where we are bricks and mortar in Dublin, we have a very loyal customer base all over Ireland.
And has it also opened up a digital marketing strategy for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have the big budgets like some of my colleagues in the room here have to be going on TV and all of the rest. So we have to use what we can and within our resources. So digital is a huge part for us, because we have to be able to get our message out there, and we have been able to effectively build an online community through our social media channels to do that. So, but again, what we're trying to do through that is to explain the products really, and to not just be, just to be advertising all of the time the products without actually explaining, well, why would you possibly need this in the first place? So what we're trying to do through our social channels is to build an online customer base, a community, because that's what it is.
Do you have much competition in the social media space? Given that, I'd imagine there might be a lot of one-off small independent operators who wouldn't regard that as a good use of their time and not have the skill set to do it.
Yeah, well, it takes a huge amount of resource. There's no question about that. So if you're going to do it and dedicate time to it, it takes a huge amount of resource and a huge amount of content creation. And all of that, and you have to be able to move with the times. Customers change their behaviours. What's trending today is going to be very different tomorrow. So you have to have your finger on the pulse to find out what it is that they want and produce content that's relevant to them. And listen, anything could happen in the world. Suddenly, what matters to them next week could be completely different. You need to be agile to be able to do that, for sure.
Well, do we have any more questions from the floor? We're getting close to the end. Yes, here we are. Microphone over there. Thank you.
Sharon Foley, IPU. We've just spent the last couple of months going around the country meeting all the members of the Irish Pharmacy Union, and by and large, poor ICT and frustrating bureaucratic admin systems is the #1 frustration for pharmacists around the country. Like, literally people in tears about the frustration. The really difficult and challenging piece about that is that the biggest customer reimburser is the HSE, and it is the biggest rate limiting step in all of this, because their capacity to change around ICT is just so inordinately slow. It's just incredibly slow to get the HSE to turn around ICT and improving of all of those schemes that are all disjointed and not gathered up. So we need to keep all of that pressure constantly on the HSE to keep that as an agenda, and on the Department of Health around the e-pharmacy agenda.
John, do you have a comment on that?
No, look, I'd absolutely agree with that. That's the feedback we get from pharmacists on a daily basis. I suppose back to kind of what I said earlier is that I think the IT that's in pharmacy at the moment is actually very good. We just don't have enough of it. The average pharmacist working in any pharmacy down the road today will need between 15 and 20 different IT platforms, websites, systems, just to keep the business going on a daily basis. Like, that's wholly inefficient. There's no data integration, there's no transfer of data. Like, we need to come up with a system, and I think there needs to be, and there is a demand from customers out there for the development of a pharmacy management system. So, like, say, Paul or Dermot they'll use SAP, that will run their entire business from the back door to the straight through their warehouse management system, their distribution, their invoicing, customer service, everything runs on the one system. In pharmacy, we have a dispensary system, and then we have all these other systems that are dotted around it, and none of them are interconnected. So the big opportunity, I think, in pharmacy tech, from leaving out the retail end of it, but just in the actual dispensary, is to actually connect these systems together, come up with a way. And you won't be able to do it all, because, as you said, trying to push the HSE or trying to integrate with the HSE, and that's a concern I'll get to in a second. But there is an opportunity there, and that will streamline. It'll streamline the business for pharmacists. It will it won't take all the pressure off them, but it will definitely help. Even simple things like paperless billing. The wholesalers will provide you with paperless billing, but if you go into any pharmacy in the country, you see shelves of invoices ticked off. Like, the invoice should come in electronically, they should be approved, and then it should flow on to Zero and then flow on to Stuart or one of his other colleagues. And it should all be done at once, literally with a click of a button. Just, I suppose, one concern we'd have, is, I know it's no doubt shared by the IPU, is there seems to now be the growth of a whole other world of HSE IT in terms of the high-tech hub, PharmaVacs. So the pharmacists now have to for PSI and for regulatory, they have to keep all the data, all the patient data on a PMR system. But now you end up with a lot of double entry, so you get paid by the HSE. And there's no connection between the PMR and the HSE system. So really this should be, and I suppose, well, it's going to be, as I said, it'll be one for the IPU to advocate with the PCRS for this. But if they can secure an API, all the data should be held in one place, feed it across. Why do you have to transfer John Carroll, date of birth, PPS number, click the vaccine? Like, it makes no sense. It creates a huge amount of additional work, additional pressure. So there's a lot of, and even deeper integration with the wholesalers will add a lot of value in terms of sourcing stock, so they understand what stock's available. You can put stuff on back order electronically. There's a lot of efficiency there which is yet to be, which can be eked out and which will help with pressure on pharmacies.
Last word to you.
Well, I would just say, like, all of that inefficiency that we see in every single pharmacy, every single day. What we go to college for 5 years now, an integrated master's program, and we see our pharmacists doing that every single day, going from one system to another system, checking off invoices, filing things. Like, we just spend an inordinate amount of time doing things that is just not best suited to our skills. We are the experts in medicine. We are the experts in terms of patient care. There's so much more we can do for our patients, their families, for the state. And that's what gives us purpose. That's what we signed up for as community pharmacists in the first place. That's what our young people want to do. We want to retain them. We want to keep them in the industry. And, we're talking about the future of pharmacy. I firmly believe this is an amazing industry to be in. And, we've seen how we came to the fore throughout COVID. There's so much more we can do, but we just need to advocate that in a very united voice and champion this industry, because we see it around us. We see it in Wales and Scotland and Canada and everything, what they're doing. We just need the right people around the table, like-minded people, to actually create the policy change, the investment in the technology to let us get going, because there's so much more we can do for preventative healthcare, never mind management of chronic illnesses for this country's population.
Oonagh O'Hagan and John Carroll, thank you both very much.